in Dave Hakstol. Coach, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for the time, and how are you?
Doing well, Zach. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing great. Your hockey team has been clicking on all cylinders. We understand that earlier in the year they had a tough patch with a 10-game losing streak, but now you guys could do no wrong. Just speak to me a little bit about the differences from that team earlier this year that lost 10 in a row to where you guys are right now.
Well, our team has grown. Our team has grown since that time. We've grown, since the start of the year. But even with that, you go through different. There's different ups and downs as you go through a year, and that stretch for us, we played a lot of pretty good hockey games during that stretch, but we couldn't find a way to push the momentum on the right side and win hockey games on a regular basis. So, some of the points that we were able to get during that stretch will end up being critical for us. But, at the end of the day, like I said, I think, some of the young guys have grown a little bit and continued to bring a little bit more to the table. But, for me, just overall, it was our whole team just staying with it, staying confident, and finding a way to push that portion of the year in the right direction and start digging out of a hole for us.
There were a lot of question marks about your team, and obviously you see the team differently than myself or fans see the team. But even when you had similar comments during that losing streak, people did raise an eyebrow saying, what is he talking about, that he's still seeing signs of good hockey? And you have to have patience in this sport. But when was it this year, with all the question marks about this team, that you knew that this had a team that had potential to make the playoffs?
I think from day one, if I'm going to be blunt, right from day one. And like I said, you're going to go through some challenging times. I'd be lying to you if I'd say, that time that we went through, during that stretch wasn't miserable. It was. It's not what you want to do when you go to the rink every night, on game night and every day during the day of, your practice days, and you walk away with some points. It's frustrating, but you got to stay really focused on what's going on a daily basis and the things that you can try to control and push the right direction. This group, right from day one of camp, has worked hard. We thought early on we had a pretty tight group, and I don't think it could have been tested anymore in terms of what type of leadership there was inside of our dressing room than it was during that stretch. So, we've still got a lot of work to do. We got a long way to go, but so far, this group has answered the question in terms of what type of chemistry we have.
It's tough and it's expected when you get traded. You have to play well, and it's tough to do so right away with all the personal issues that you deal with. Your goaltender, Petr Mrazek, doesn't get much better than what he was able to do the other night in Montreal.
Yeah, he was. All right, I'm back here. He was, he was outstanding right from day one. And obviously that was a pretty important time period for us, with the odd situation where both of our goaltenders had gone down. I think Ron Hakstol going out and making a very decisive move to bring a quality guy, a quality goaltender like Petr Mrazek into our mix right away, said a lot about where we were at. And Peter's come in and he's done his part. He's been outstanding.
How does a team respond to a new goaltender, and also how does a goaltender respond to the new system? Because an average person could just say you got to show up and stop the puck, but there's a lot more to that.
Well, there's every goaltender is a little bit different. I think you don't want to get too complex within the first day or two. I mean, there's some communication things. There's some terms that are used on the ice when D and a goaltender are communicating. There's different ways that will defend a play versus other teams in the league. So little things like that. But to be honest with you, I think we tried to keep it as simple as possible. Petr went out and did his job. He stopped the puck, and we just tried to build each day from there. I think Kim Dillabaugh, our goaltender coach, and Petr have worked well together. And I think one of the things that you see in Peter's game is his ability to handle the puck. Outside of the crease. He does a very good job with that. He has good hockey sense, and he helps our defensemen out in a big way with that added skill.
Talking to Flyers head coach Dave Hakstol right now via the David Lerner Associates hotline. Last time we talked on the air was actually right when the season did end last year, and there were questions about this core, and you did not waver. You said this core was still capable of winning, and you still had a lot of confidence in Claude Giroux. How about the play of your captain, because he's been one of the better players in the league this year, and El Capitan and Claude Giroux?
Yeah, Zach, well, I think his play this year so far, I mean, it speaks for itself. I don't think much more needs to be said. I think, G took a lot of responsibility for the results of our season last year, and as a captain and as a leader, I would expect nothing less out of him. That's the type of person that he is. But you know what? He dug in. He had a great summer in terms of making sure his readiness was at a real high level. And I thought right from day one of camp, you saw the kind of the driven mentality that he's had, and he's been a big part of it. You know, that entire core group is from within as well as on the ice. They're the ones that go out and kind of lay the foundation for all of the young guys to follow.
Talking to head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers and Dave Hakstol. Let's get to some of these youngsters. Let's start with Konecny and Ghost. How have you seen them grown from last year to the way that they're playing right now?
Just they're taking the steps that you would hope really talented, competitive, good young players will take. They both went through their ups and downs last year in their first full NHL seasons, but they handled some of those challenges very well. They used them to help themselves get better, and we're seeing them really grow as players. Just it starts in terms of their confidence and their expectations levels of what they're able to bring day in and day out. And one of the things and one of the adjustments that is most challenging stepping to this level is being a consistent player every night in the National Hockey League, no matter what the situation, no matter what the travel, what the schedule, whether you're feeling 100%, that's what being a good pro is about. And I think you're seeing these two guys really grow into those significant stages of being good pros.
Do you think maybe at times last year when they were inactive, that maybe helped them see that perspective of what it meant to be a consistent professional?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, good players, at times, get scratched out of the lineup. And again, it starts with question number one: what's right for the team? Very close second is, how does that, especially with young players, how does that situation help a young player grow, and how can he learn and how can he improve from that situation rather than staying in the lineup? So all of those factors are taken into place, and everybody's a little bit different. So it's for those two guys, it was part of their development through last year, and right now those two guys, I just think they're showing how driven and the level of character that they have. They didn't make excuses when they were out of the lineup. They went to work, they did the job, and they tried to come back a little bit better. And in the long run here, I think it's their work ethic that's paying off for them.
Patience is such a big thing, as we know, whenever you're dealing with the youngster. Let's look at another rookie in Nolan Patrick. Is really coming on as of late. Evaluate the season he's been having so far.
I think he's had a heck of a rookie season. Right from, I thought really, early in training camp, from day one, he earned his spot on this team, and we had said that all the way along. That he was going to have to do that. He did that. I really liked the first 3 weeks of his season. Some of the numbers weren't there offensively, but I really liked the start that he was off to, and just the good minutes that he was giving us. He was injured, and he sat out. I don't know the exact number of days. I think it was 21, 22 days where he was away from the game, and that's that I think slowed down his adjustment to the NHL. It probably took him, for the 3 weeks that he was off, it probably took him 6 weeks after that, once he got back, to really catch up and get back to where he wanted to be. And, that brings us, to just after Christmas here, when, we started to see more and more on a daily basis. And, right now he's he's playing in that number 2 spot. He's doing a real good job. He's been able to fill into different roles when we've asked him to do that. So, in a nutshell, so far it's been a really good year for him as a young player in the NHL. And the most exciting thing is he continues to grow every day. I love his competitiveness. I love his work ethic and his compete. And he's pushing to get better.
It's really fun to track your team over the last few years because you have a bunch of youngsters and you implement them in with the guys that have been a part of your core for such a long time. You look at a player like Robert Hagg, maybe doesn't pop off as statistically as the others that we've been talking about, but his physicality, I think, has been a nice element that's been added to the fold for this team this year, Coach.
Yeah, it's an absolutely key element, and there's certain guys that garner a lot of spotlight, away from the rink, and are going to get a lot of attention media-wise. And then there's other guys that are just absolutely appreciated inside of your dressing room for what they do on a daily basis. And I think Hager's one of those guys. And he's a heavy player, but there's also a lot more to his game. And as a young guy, we've asked a lot of him, and he's had his ups and downs this year. But I think the time that he spent in the American Hockey League prepared him really well to handle some of those ups and downs. And he's a guy that's just continued to push through, and playing in the role that he is in it's a top 4 role. You end up playing against a lot of the other team's best players. And that's challenging, even for the good veterans in this league. Hager's handled that pretty well, and he's a real key guy for us back there.
On the way out with Flyers head coach Dave Hakstol, let's get a little update on the injured players, Wayne Simmons and Brian Elliott, and also how do you see this goalie situation playing out when Elliott is healthy enough to return?
Well, adding Petr to the mix, I guess one of the things, you never have to look too far ahead and make any assumptions. If we had all 3 guys healthy, I mean that's a great position of strength for us. Right now it's Petr and Alex that are doing the job for us. And we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Moose has done a hell of a job for us. I mean, he's, you could argue that the first half or 2/3 of the year he's been our team MVP. So he's a guy that's important to us. We want to get those guys and everybody as healthy as quickly as possible. I mean, we're right in the heart of a pretty heated race here to be one of the teams that's playing when it comes to playoff time. So health is critical. We want to get everybody back and going as soon as we can.
You're in a city, you know how much they love their Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles win the Super Bowl. You guys start winning a bunch of games. Sixers have won a bunch of games as well, and everyone's craving that playoff feel. That's why you get into this sport, is to win the championship at the end of the year and help younger people out. Do you feel the energy in this city based off what the Eagles were able to do earlier in the month in February?
Yeah, we all watched the Eagles as they grew and developed through their year and the kind of year that they put together, and some of the challenges that they handled throughout the regular season and then into the playoffs. And it was an unbelievable thing to watch the reaction in and around the city and the excitement that went with that. So that's everything that we know about the Philadelphia sports fans, and it was a real cool thing to be able to watch from right here in town.
Last one, Coach. I understand talking to Doug Peterson throughout this year. He said it during the middle of the season. You got to appreciate what the team is doing, and it's sometimes tough to appreciate because everyone's looking at that next game, and in your case, the next game as well, the next shift. Have you been able to appreciate how this team has turned it around, or is it still tough to do because you're right in the fold, still trying to make the NHL playoffs?
It is from one game to the next. It's quick turnaround, but it's not so much about enjoying the wins or appreciating the wins, although I think that's important for the team to be able to do before they flip to the next one. For me personally, it's more so been the real direct approach, the commitment that we've seen from this group from day one of training camp. And that didn't start on day one of training camp. What the level of camp on day 1, 2, and 3 told us, how committed our guys had been over the summer and the preparation that they had put in. So for me, it's an appreciation of the daily work that our players have done and continue to do, and that's what I look forward to when you turn the page to our next game tomorrow. These guys compete hard for one another, and that's a fun group to be part of.
Coach, best of luck tomorrow and the rest of the way, and we always appreciate when you take a few minutes to talk to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on, Zach.
Thank you. There's Flyers head coach Dave Hakstol joining us right there on the David Lerner Associates hotline. And I'll tell you this, that has been someone that has received a lot of criticism for this fan base. And we've talked about how he handles that criticism before, and he talks about how badly he wants to win. And I told a lot of people, have patience with the coach. And at time it was tough to have patience. But if you look at the direction this team is heading, because barring an epic collapse, they are going to make the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they could be as high as the number 1 seed in the Metropolitan Division. I know last night Capitals get a victory. They do jump the Flyers to put them back into the number 2 spot. But they're going to make the playoffs, the Philadelphia Flyers. At this point, I think it's a lock that they're going to make the playoffs. And if you look at it big picture, and we'll see what damage they do in the postseason because of how many good teams there are in the Metropolitan and also the entire Eastern Conference, when you look at the Atlantic as well, this is a team and this is a coach that even through all these ups and downs, and you still need that patience, and we talked about the patience in the interview, still the first 3 years that he's been to being the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, he's going to take this team to the postseason in 2 out of those 3 years, obviously missing last year. But this year it's been an unbelievable ride. When they lost 10 games in a row, and even as I told him when he was saying that they were playing good hockey even in that stretch and doing some good things, I scratched my head and I said, you are what your record says you are. But he saw something that we didn't, and they ended up backing up the coach's statement. They had a very solid last 2 months, and this has been a completely different hockey team to make that run that they have been from the worst in the division to up towards the top of the division, depending on what night it is, but in that 1 through 3 seed conversation in the Metropolitan. And it's been a remarkable job throughout the entire organization that the Philadelphia Flyers had, and it is unexpected. And I thought they could contend for a playoff spot this year, but probably because of the strength of the division would not make it. But now they're definitely going to be making the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they need to get praised for that. So we do appreciate the coach and Dave Hakstol for joining us. I thought maybe we were going to get a little inside information when the phone started vibrating. I had to step away for about a few seconds, and then he said, yeah, I'm back. So you never know what could happen when you're talking to an NHL head coach. But always great to talk to him. And the Flyers do play tomorrow up against Carolina at 7 at the Wells Fargo Center. All right, let's take a break here on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. 4:34 is the local time from our very fine Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.